book's all about men who are forging their own path in the 21st century. They're going against the grain and they're refusing to be seen following the status quo. So when did you realize that you were such a man that you didn't want to be the same as all other men? You wanted to forge that your own path. When did that happen? And what was it?
Sure. I think the beginning of that path was during the global financial crisis of 2008, because up until then, I had followed the traditional path of most men. I went to school, I got good grades, I went to a decent university, and I got a job in the corporate world. But then the financial crisis happened, and it got me questioning what I was doing. Was I doing something that I enjoyed? Was I doing something that made me happy? And the answer was no. And at the time, I began to observe that many of us are exhausted, not because we are physically doing too much, but firstly, we're doing too little of the things that bring us joy. And second, because we're running someone else's race. And so I started asking myself questions such as, well, what did success mean to me? And what sort of impact did I want to have in the world? And I realized that my greatest challenge in the following years would be beginning to build a life around those answers. So that's really when the path towards my own future, owning my life and owning where I want it to be, that is for me where it really began.
Absolutely. Because funny enough, I was just looking at a quote earlier today, and it was about Jim Rohn, the great Jim Rohn, what he had said about, you know, are you running someone else's race? Or are you running your own race? Because if you're not running your own race, and somebody else is going to run your race for you, and what you're going to get from it, that's not his exact words, but that's the message, you know.
Yeah, it's so powerful, because I think that what I realized at that point and since then is that the longest journey we make as humans are the inches from our heads to our heart. And admittedly, never an easy journey, because it is going to be full of challenges, setbacks, and obstacles, but it will be the most fulfilling and exciting that you will ever embark on. And I think we have to avoid the trap that Bronnie Ware speaks to in her book, The Top Regrets of the Dying. The number one regret of the dying is the fact that they wish they lived a life more true to themselves than a life lived for others. Now, if we can heed those words from those who have lived their life already, we can focus our energy not only on just truly living, but on building the talents, the skills, and the gifts that have been equipped to us at birth.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I used to be in education for 25 years, and that curriculum is just absolutely, it's Neanderthal. You know, I mean, today in secondary schools, kids are still sitting in rows. Come on, you know, when I learned about education, it was like started in the 1880 something or other, you know, in Scotland. But anyway, so my next question for you, Simon, is this. I don't know. Do you know David Hawkins' work, Map of Consciousness?
I may recognize it if I say it. It doesn't come to my mind straight away now.
Okay. So he talks about all these emotions as energy, and it's based on muscle testing. And he created this scale of it's light energy, and courage has a resonance of 200. And courage is the first step to transformation. So here's a question for you. How did you find your courage that changed your mindset, the words that you started to speak, the actions that strengthened and supported the journey that you're on through a period of transition?
Well, first of all, I absolutely agree with the words you've shared. I think that the journey of transformation does begin with courage. We can mistakenly think we need the confidence, but actually courage comes before confidence. When you do something you've not done before, that builds your confidence. For me, the courage started to come when I shifted my environment. You know, I often get asked the question, Simon, what is the fastest way to succeed in any area of our life, our career, or our business? Simply put, it is to design an environment around you that makes it impossible not to succeed. So what I started doing is I spent time outside of work and on weekends in environments that immersed my mind in inspiration. So I started to join mastermind groups. I hired mentors and coaches. I changed the books I was reading. I would watch TED Talks. I would watch and consume anything that would elevate my energetic state. Now, once you operate from a higher energetic state, what happens is you begin to discover your courage. You begin to discover the courage required to take those small steps forward. And that's all you need at the beginning. You just have to take that first step, because once you take that first step, you build your confidence, and then you take another step and another step. And before long, you create momentum. And that feeling of momentum, I like to call it that I am going places feeling. Nothing can make you feel quite as energized as that feeling of momentum. Because once it's behind you, your mind starts thinking bigger and bolder. What else can I achieve? What else can I explore? And that's when the excitement really kicks in.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just love it, because it's like, I don't know who's got whose hand up, whose back, and saying the same thing. You know what I mean? You can see I'm nodding, because but the eloquence in how you put these words together is just brilliant. and that takes skill, and that's when you've got a connection with who you are, your passion, your purpose. And when we find ourselves in that place, we can speak and speak and speak, because we speak our truth. And that's important for me. I call that voice, So here's another question for you. So what does it mean to be a man? And, I've focused heavily on men, and it's because it's an all-male book. Because I see a massive swing and change in men in the work that I'm doing and working with. I'm very blessed to be working with some great men who are authors, But what does it mean for you to be a man, to live your life authentically in a competitive world?
Sure. If I may, Brenda, I will probably answer it from the perspective of what does it mean to be a human.
Yes, I know. Yeah,
because I think I resonate more with speaking to that. Because I think what it means to be human is that leadership begins with leading ourselves first. And for me, to be a human means to understand who we are, to appreciate the fact that we are a miracle, and to bring value into the world. Because I'm a huge believer that our value as a human is determined by how much more we have given to the world than we've taken from it.
Absolutely.
This is what I call legacy virtue. Now, in order to touch on our legacy virtue, we have to know ourselves. True wisdom begins with knowing ourselves first. So we have to balance. And the reason I talk and speak to the idea of what it means to be a human is that we all have masculine and feminine energies. And so to live like a human, to express our potential, to connect with others, we've really got to connect at a deeper level and embrace those masculine and feminine qualities so we can connect with other people. Because the greatest gift that we can give others is not a material good, but it is the space for feeling appreciated, trusted, and listened to. That is the greatest gift we can give to others. And that requires us to connect with those parts of our human self. So for me, what it means to be human is first, appreciate that you are a miracle. Many wish they would win the national lottery, yet we have already won the greatest lottery ticket there is going, the lottery of life. And the question is, what are you going to do with that winning ticket of yours? Second, understand what you were put on this earth to do. Now, you and I are not going to wake up one morning and know exactly what that is that we're going to do for the rest of our life, but it begins with asking yourself, what am I most curious about? What does my energy speak to? And listen to those whispers inside of you so you become more closely aligned to your true self. And third, how can I bring value into the world? How can I share my gifts, my talents, and my skills to the world so they can benefit from my presence?
Absolutely. It's like Maya Angelou said, it's not about it's how you make people feel. And for me, that's important. And I'm sure you have feedback that when you've spoken to people, their faces, they're smiling and they'll say, I feel better now. And you might not have said much to them. And just that simple smile and hello can be enough to change a person's life. And it costs nothing. Kindness costs nothing. And I appreciate and respect that you wanted to talk about being a human, because I'm a human first. I'm a humanitarian. I'm not a male and a female. But the whole idea of the Voices of Strength being an all-male book was the total transformations I witnessed in men that I worked with who'd come from a background, military background, very masculine background, and yet they had worked on themselves and got to a point in their life that they knew the power was in the vulnerability to be themselves and to speak their truth. And for me, that just generated this whole idea of having a book just with men, because normally I would have men and women in a book. But I thought,
I really connect with that notion of vulnerability, because what I've learned is that the gateway to connection is vulnerability.
Absolutely.
In fact, vulnerability does not make you any less of a leader. Vulnerability makes you human. And that's what the world needs. The world needs more humanness, because we want to feel connected to the people that lead us. We want to feel connected to those above us, because then we're more likely going to show up as our best selves.
Yeah, absolutely. So what valuable lessons of strength have you learned about yourself on your journey so far?
I think the greatest insight that I've had about strength is that it is in our darkest, most challenging times that equip us with the insight and the strength to come back stronger, because we never know how strong we are until we face obstacles that we never imagined that we would have to face. So for me, whether it was losing my mum at the age of 17 to a tragic accident, whether it was failing my second year of university, whether it was being made redundant 14 months into my first job at a company called Lehman Brothers due to the financial crisis, whether it was facing the decision to maybe go back to employment after my first year and a half in entrepreneurship. Those moments are what shaped me. But I think those moments are important to show you just how strong you are and how capable you are. Otherwise, you simply won't know.
Exactly. And, you know, for me, it's always adversity in the darkness. That's when the stars shine. And that's, you know, my own stories about being in a very dark place. And it was like a flicker of light. And it gave me that hope to rise, you know, like the phoenix, you know. So last question, Simon. What 3 tips or pieces of advice would you give the younger Simon?
3 tips I will give the younger Simon. First is value your opinion above those of others, because you have wisdom inside of you that is waiting to be heard. So that would be the first bit of advice I would give. Second piece of advice would be focus your energy on being better than who you were yesterday, not on being better than others. Because if you focus your energy on being better than others, it is a race you will never win, because there will always be someone better than you at something. That would be the second bit of advice. The third bit of advice would be get to know yourself. Get to know who you are, what you stand for, what you believe in, what your purpose is. Because once you understand who you are and what is important to you, you will awaken the greatest source of energy that we as humans possess.
Absolutely amazing. And I've just been writing about what you just said today. Crazy, you know. So Simon, thanks very much for giving me your time. I know it's precious. I really appreciate it. I've got 2 deals for 1 today. Anything I can do to support your work, anything at all, you just need to reach out and ask me, and I'll be there. You know, I'm champion you, I talk about you and everything, and keep up the great work and keep making a difference and keep inspiring others with your energy, because I know I love it. And hopefully in the not too distant future we can maybe arrange to meet up in London.
Definitely. Well, Brenda, thank you so much for including me in this project of yours, and look forward to staying in touch.